Welcome to the series on sync sound. In this particular episode, we are going to examine a few of the equipments which are normally used to record sync sound, and also as an extension to that, we will also try and record a song and see all the technicalities, all the equipments which are involved in the entire process. Now, when we are talking about sync sound, we are talking about a very specialized thing. We are talking about a situation where we have to take the sound, we have to capture the sound, keeping in mind particular situations. In most of the cases, there can be two basic situations. One is a situation where we are trying to capture a non-fiction film. We are trying to capture a situation which is a non-fictional, which is more of a evolving kind of thing, and in the second thing it's much more the fiction. If we are recording for any fictional film, then it will be much more controlled. Even during a fiction film, during the shooting, we have to take the sound properly in order to keep it as a reference for the dubbing artist or for the Foley artist, even for the designer to work with it. So the basic equipments which will come into play will be first a microphone, which will convert the sound energy or the acoustic energy into electrical energy, which will be carried using a lead wire to a system where it will be recorded. Now, there may be two basic broad variety of system. One is a single system where we will be recording the sound along with the picture in a camera like this. A video camera sometimes also offer the capability of recording sound properly. So normally it will have two inputs which can be properly recorded at either 32 kHz sampling rate or 48 kHz sampling rate, which is adjustable and switchable. So normally we will use the 48 kHz sampling rate. So the basic things which are to be kept in mind is to be as non-intrusive to the situation as possible, but at the same time kind of get a audio mapping of the entire space that we are trying to record, and consider the sources of sound that we want to record, and also consider the sources of noise that we don't want to record or want to avoid. So we will apply our normal standard outline, guideline to kind of cut off all the noise which is happening inside the floor of the shooting, or maybe if it's outside, then we will try and control the noise which is happening around the shooting area. For example, we have to switch off the AC, we have to switch off the fan and so on, and also take care of the extraneous noise that might be happening using some persons or a few personnel to be spread out around the shooting region to control the extraneous noises. We will begin with our microphone. Now, in most of the cases, there are two types of microphones normally in use. The first type is a condenser shotgun microphone, which can be held a little away from the source. If you cannot show the microphone inside the shooting area or inside the frame, then you can actually keep it outside like this and shoot. This type of microphone will be almost in all the cases a condenser microphone. So it will require additional power supply to be given to it, which can be given in this case, in this particular case, by a 1.5 volt standard AA size cell. Now, if we don't have the battery, this microphone is designed to be supplied with a phantom power. And normally a camera like this will have a additional facility to provide the phantom power to a microphone like this. Now, this microphone is a standard cardioid capsule which is inside this microphone, but at the same time this has been made hypercardioid. Just by using this nozzle, you will see this nozzle will have certain slits cut on the sides. Now, these slits are designed in such a way so as to avoid any external noise which are coming into the microphone from side. So whichever sound goes into the microphone through the sides will be converted into off-axis noise and by the other slits, and will be cancelling each other out. Therefore, whatever we will effectively get will be coming straight through the pipe from the 0-degree axis of the microphone, and that is why it becomes extremely directional, and we can point out a single person from a crowd if we are using a microphone like this. Equipment that we are going to understand now is the boom pole, which will actually extend our arm so that we can hold the microphone a little closer to the source of sound. Now, when we are using a boom pole like this, there are certain things which has to be kept in mind. Firstly, this microphone is an extremely sensitive microphone. Therefore, this will catch any kind of noise which can be generated around it, or even when we are rubbing hands on the cable like this, or if we are rubbing our hands on the boom pole like this, it will generate the faintest noise which will be captured by this microphone. Therefore, it is essential to keep in mind while using the boom pole, one has to be extremely gentle. So when you are holding it, you have to be firm, but at the same time very gentle, so that your hand does not rub around it. You'll have to be holding it firmly, but you cannot rub around, or the cable which will be connected with it will have to be managed in such a way, will have to be basically wound around like this, so that it becomes secure, so that there is no additional loose cable which is banging with the boom pole. One must also test the boom pole before the start of the recording, because these are telescopic boom poles, so one of the rods will go inside the other, and these rods can potentially hit against each other. The inner rod can hit against the outer rod. So before the start of the shooting, one should shake the boom pole and check for any loose parts which might create noise. There are a few things which one has to keep in mind while using a boom pole like this. Firstly, the boom pole should be having an attachment on top to connect or to kind of put the microphone inside. Now, secondly, you will see in this particular design, there are some bands which will hold the microphone. You can understand if I fix the microphone. You can see there are some rubber bands which are holding the microphone. Now, these rubber bands are meant for shock absorption. So, if the boom rod shakes a little, or if it moves a little, this bands will ensure that the boom rod does not get the shake. So it will basically isolate the microphone from the boom rod. So the microphone is normally attached like this, and since this is a professional microphone, it will also be ending in a XLR type of socket. So we'll have to use a XLR male to XLR female type of connector. Now this type of connector can be connected with a camera like this, which has an XLR input connection, or it can also be connected with a mixer if we are using a mixer. The next type of microphone, which is commonly used during a location shooting, is known as a lavalier microphone. Basically a very small capsule which can be hidden inside shirts, or it can also be attached to the collar with a clip. So these are also known as collar microphones. Now, as you can see, this microphone capsule is attached with a cable already, and there's this connector which again gives out a XLR output. Now, these type of microphones are also sometimes condenser microphones, and you can actually see you have to provide it with a 1.5 volt AA size battery to provide the phantom power to the microphone. Again, if you don't have the battery, you can still use a phantom power provided from either the camera or a mixer or any other recording device that you're connecting it with. The most important thing while using this will be the technique to use it in such a way that you don't get a rubbing sound. So when we are placing it inside our shirts like this, there is always a chance that we are, moving our shirts, moving our limbs when the microphone is rubbing with the either the cloth or the body. So we'll have to tape it in such a way, or we'll have to fix it in such a way. There are sometimes clips which are also additionally available, which can be connected with this to secure it with the inside the shirt or inside the t-shirt, whichever the character is wearing. Now, this type of microphone will give you only a very one-dimensional sound, because it'll, even if you are taking a very long shot, this microphone position will be very close to the mouth. Therefore, it is essential in the post-production to temper or to equalize the output of the microphone and make it more suitable for a longer shot. Now, when using lapel or lavalier microphones, we'll also have to check the variety of the lavalier microphone. Now this microphone over here is a corded microphone. Therefore, it will also be, between the character, if I am setting it up with him, if I am setting it up here, then I'll have to ensure that this character is within the reach of the recorder and there is a wire running between him and the camera. So we'll have to be careful about that. But certain situations where you have to avoid the wire dangling between the character and the camera or the recorder. In that case, we use a device which is cordless. Now this is an example of a wireless lavalier microphone, which again is a condenser capsule, and there are two AA size 1.5 volt batteries which are needed to run this type of. So this is the transmitter which will be connected with the character, and the transmitter module can be hidden and kept inside the pocket of the character. And on the other end, on the recorder end, we will be having something like this, which is known as the receiver. So this will receive this audio signal which will be transmitted by the transmitter, and the other end of the cable will have to be again connected with your recorder or the camera that we are using. Sometimes this type of device is also used in stage shows where the singer needs a lot of movement, where the singer is also dancing along with singing. The cables are also the very important linking factor between all the devices that we are going to use during recording. Now during recording, we'll have to lay long cables. Therefore, they are prone to catch several noises, and that is why we used something called a balanced connection. Now here in this cable you can see this is the female side of the cable and this is the male side of the cable, and this type of connector is called a XLR connector. You can make out that there are three wires which are running inside the connector. One wire is carrying the signal, so that's the positive wire. One wire is carrying the negative signal, and the third wire is basically grounding any noise which can be seeping inside this cable or seeping inside the microphone. Any noise can be generated from any high frequency which is happening, like for example we can get noises which get generated from tube light chokes or from other electrical lines running along. When you are using a boom pole like this, it is important to follow that there is no rule in audio. One can actually use it any way they like. But there are certain ways in which if one uses the boom pole, it becomes easier to cover the sound region and to capture the sound properly. So I have already connected the cable and ensured that the cable is running properly through the body of the boom pole by, I have tied it along with the boom pole, and I have also connected the other end with the camera. So the very first position I am going to talk about is the up position, which will have to be held like this. If I am actually recording these two characters, I can hold it anywhere I like. I can also pan the boom rod when one character is speaking and then again pan when the other character is speaking. I can also tilt the boom rod by using my wrist like this. But while doing all these movements, it will be nice to note that you have to actually hold the boom rod firmly, but yet gently, not to generate any noise. The advantage of this position is that you can move the boom rod any which way you like, and the mobility and the ability to point it towards a particular character is extremely good. But you will also notice that this position makes my arms, after 15 minutes of holding the boom microphone, my hands are going to start paining. And if I am holding it for more than that, it becomes even more painful. And after a point of time, my hands will start shaking. So that is not desirable. Therefore, we come to the second position, which is commonly used while using a boom rod like this. So we will place the boom rod on our shoulders like this and point it towards the character. Now the advantage of this type of boom rod is that I can hold the boom rod for hours without any problem. But the disadvantage of this position is that it's not very mobile. So whenever I am moving, my whole body will also have to move. So this will give me a little time, so it will take a little time from one movement to the other. The second thing to note is that when you are trying to tilt the position of the boom, it might provide a friction with your collar which will generate some noise. So it's a good idea when you are actually tilting or when you are panning to lift it up a little bit, pan, and then again keep it on the shoulder very gently. Sometimes it requires that you need not be very far away from the character. So in those situations we can decrease the height of our boom rod like this and hold it, again secure the cable properly and hold it like this. Now with this position, I am also being able to move the boom rod as I want. I can tilt it as I want, and I can hold it for hours without my hand paining. If I am tired with one of my hands, I can softly change my other hand and hold it like this. Even I myself can move freely if I am using this position. And the most important thing is that my right hand is free to operate my recorder or my camera which way I'd like to. Another thing which has to be kept in mind while using this type of microphone outdoors is that there might be a lot of wind. So we'll have to protect this microphone from wind. You can see the slits here. Wind can easily enter and disturb our recording. Therefore, normally a windshield is used, which may be a simple foam which will give you a very light protection. But if you are say you are shooting by the side of a sea, then you need much heavier protection. In that case, there is normally a capsule like device which encapsulates the entire microphone, and on top of the capsule, on top of that body, there are far which protects it even further, so that there is no wind which will come inside and hit the microphone diaphragm. In this exercise, we are going to use a single system whereby the sound that will be recorded, it will be recorded inside the camera along with the picture. Now, on the other side, we will be using a boom rod and a shotgun microphone. Now, our aim is to capture the sound of one person speaking in basically two magnifications. So, one will be a little longer magnification, one will be a little closer magnification. We will also see how to manage the position of the microphone so that when you cut in the post-production, when you cut and put these shots side by side, the sound should not be too jerky. Therefore, when we are using the long shot, we'll have to use a certain distance between the character and the microphone. And when we are going to the next close shot, we should not come very close to the character because the camera frame allows so. We still will have to maintain an optimal distance between the character and the microphone so that we get a smooth transition between these two shots. Please note that whenever you are pointing a microphone to an object or to a source of sound, you'll have to point it exactly towards that source, exactly towards the sound where it is emanating from. Say if I am speaking, the microphone should be roughly pointed between my nose and my mouth to get a proper sound without any high frequency loss. In this situation, we have two characters whom we will record their speaking among themselves. So we want to record it using a single system. So we will use the camera as the recorder itself. The camera person here, she is doing the sound also. She is wearing the headphone to constantly monitor the sound, and she'll also be maintaining the level of recording at -12 decibels approximately in the dBFS scale that's been displayed in the camera itself. Now, the microphone is a shotgun microphone which is very unidirectional, and the microphone does also have a battery which is supplying the phantom power for the microphone. The electrical energy which the microphone is converting is being carried from the microphone to the camera by the green wire which we can see. And the camera does have two inputs. Only one of the input is right now engaged using the external microphone that we are using. There are actually two inputs. The second input can also be engaged, but in this case what we are doing, we are recording the same signal in two channels and keeping one of the channels lesser in order to avoid any clipping that might occur during the process of recording. So let us start the recording now. Everyone ready? Camera ready?
Ready.
Boom in position. Roll camera.
Camera rolling.
Action.
Yesterday I was talking with Bose about our new project, the film I'm making on Lalun Fokir.
Oh.
So for that I have to go to, I guess I have to go to Bangladesh and Shantiniketan. So Shantiniketan is sorted. But for Bangladesh I have to get my passport and visa, and to add I have lost my voter ID card. Okay. So how should I go about the process? Like how should I make the passport?
Let me think about it. I think I have a friend working in a passport office at Ruby.
Okay. But do you have his number?
Just let me check it once. Yeah, there.
Soham passport,
Yeah,
right?
Soham. 91
91
82
82
76
76
44
44
30.
30. Okay.
His name is Soham.
Soham, right? Yeah,
I
Soham.
think.
Yeah.
Soham.
Cut. Before the start of recording of music, there are a few things that should be kept in mind. Firstly, when we are taking sounds for audiovisual media, I must point out that we try to record the sound as dry as possible, meaning we try to avoid any reflections or any reverberations that occur and try to record only the original source as much as possible. But I must say that the musicality of any musical instrument will depend upon the musical instrument, of course, number one, but also the acoustics or the surrounding space where it is being played. Therefore, when we try to put a microphone to any musical instrument, normally we will try not to put it very close to the instrument. We will try to keep a distance so that the signal to noise ratio is not affected, but at the same time, apart from the dry signal, a little bit of the reflections are also recorded. This is done because any musical instrument sounds better with a reverb, and natural reverberation is the best thing that one can record. Secondly, I must point out that the dynamic range of each instrument has to be understood and their frequency response, and we should try with the different positions of the microphone. Now, sometimes if it's not possible to put the microphones very close to the source, we will sometimes employ something called an ambient microphone, which is placed a little further away from the musicians, which basically records the reflections of the ceiling, the floor and the walls of the studio or the space where it is being recorded. So we will here today in this recording that we are doing, there are basically three instruments: one electric guitar, one bass guitar and one voice. The electric guitar and the bass guitar both are line instruments, therefore we must remember to put it in the line input of the mixer and not to put the microphone input on, because in that case the sensitivity won't match and the sound will distort. Therefore it is very important to remember that whenever a microphone is used, to select the input as the microphone source, and whenever any line input is used, to select it as a line input source. So we have today two line input sources in the form of an electric guitar and a bass guitar, and we have a vocalist. So let us start recording the song.
শাখে শাখে পাখি ডাকে কত শোভা চারিপাশে শাখে শাখে পাখি ডাকে কত শোভা চারিপাশে আহা কি